Hey everyone, nice to see you again after my rant on Cloud Mythos last week. I'm an ex-Google engineer and fractional CTO and a huge fan of tarot cards. And after people watched my video last time, I thought that I should really make this kind of tarot tech news into a format. So look forward to more of this. Today, I want to talk about a big announcement that happened last week on I think the 24th of April, 26th of April. And this is about Chinese AI. And this is a message coming to you with me being in Zurich, as you see in the background, wearing a nice Chinese shirt that I got in Taiwan, I will add. And giving you my thoughts on the DeepSeek V4 model and the developments, what this means, and then we will also pull some tarot cards at the end. So first, let's just address the whole elephant in the room, which is the whole situation between the US and China as the AI wars escalate. I think that I've also, seen in the news sort of reports about how using Chinese AI models is bad because they have certain biases. That's not what we should do. They're not free, and that they've been also trained on data that has been stolen essentially from Western AI companies. And I would like to take a moment to address these points first. So, for one, maybe we should just discuss the question of, are these models censored? Well, they sure are in some sense when you consider questions like Tiananmen Square, but that reflects a political bias that the base model has from its training data, and that can be fine-tuned away. So it doesn't really mean that just because the base model has that bias, any derived models will too. That is something that we as AI model builders will choose, and depends on your application. It certainly is far more open to be able to have a model which is open weights, which is Apache license that allows you to derive any other model from it, compared to a license by Anthropic or OpenAI, which doesn't let you distill the model that they are serving you into any other competitor model, whatever that means. So there's actually more openness when it comes to using Chinese models, as long as you use just the base model, run it on your own hardware. They offer really nice documentation, especially for the Qwen family. And I've personally developed my AI Tarot model on top of Qwen 1.5b, and it was very nice to work with, very okay. The model itself, of course, because it's prioritized Chinese text so much, tends to randomly switch to Chinese at times, but that's certainly something that you can address with fine-tuning and preparing your data set differently. So I don't think that there's any issue in the models being biased, as long as you run them and use them as baselines for derivative work. I think that's okay. What I wouldn't do is that I wouldn't send my inputs and outputs to Alibaba, for example, to Alibaba Cloud. And that's just because when I read the terms of service, they have some questionable copyright claims that suggest that if you actually send them, the data, that they somehow have the right to use both inputs and outputs, which is, I think, absolutely a no-go. Western AI companies have been better at this, although they will still want to push to use your data to train when they can. But either way, I mean, the best course of action is to actually train and deploy, your own local small model, and not rely on any big vendors. But so that's sort of one point that I would bring up, and I think the other point is the reason this DeepSeek V4 news is so important is that beyond the fact that it's reached parity with big Western labs in terms of benchmark hacking, I mean, and I think the Chinese are even better at benchmark hacking. I mean, they probably have mastered studying to the test also in school, and are very competitive there. But The key announcement I would say there is not that the models are as good as GPT 5.4 or whatever. It's actually that it's the first time that the DeepSeek V4 model can run on local hardware that is Chinese developed. So Huawei has a new series of GPUs called the Ascend series, and it's getting pretty close to being an alternative inference stack to NVIDIA-based Western hardware. So this suggests that as this stabilizes, we're going to have a way of running AI models that could potentially be much cheaper using Chinese hardware. And yeah, that should be bringing prices going down, and I think is a real threat to NVIDIA's monopoly and the very questionable business decisions they've been making to corner the market. So I think it's a good development for more widespread AI adoption. However, with respect to the situation in the US stock markets and the valuation of these companies, it certainly raises the point, is it really worth the money that they are valued at? I mean, if you have essentially similar software capabilities with open models soon to be running on cheaper GPUs, the market is even closer to the correction that it so desperately needs with the AI bubble, being closer to pop. So yeah, I think that's sort of the key thing I would like to discuss today in the tarot reading. And maybe I guess it's useful to mention, in case people come to the idea that I'm some sort of like Chinese shill or whatever. I think that you can wear whichever culture's clothes that you want, and you can appreciate the artifacts that they make without falling in line with the entire political party. And at the same time, I would like to emphasize that in my experience working at Google, and I think generally in the tech world, there are so many excellent, amazing, and very smart Chinese engineers that frankly, it doesn't really matter if the AI model is made by Google or OpenAI or Anthropic, or by Alibaba or DeepSeek or whoever, because there's still lots of Chinese engineers working on it. So if you want to avoid any Chinese work in it, that's just impossible. So let's just be real there for a minute. But so with that, I think it could be interesting to pull some cards and understand a bit more the relationship and how the AI conflict, if you will, between the US and China would develop. I think it's interesting to know what it means for American US companies now that we have this DeepSeek V4 model, and especially the Ascend hardware, which it looks like, buy it on Alibaba. Like, I just checked on Alibaba B2B, like it looks like I can order GPUs for as cheap as 2K with 48 gigs of RAM, which is like insane. I mean, NVIDIA has been stuffing their pockets with this. Can't speak for inference speeds, but yeah, I'm liking what I am seeing. So let's start by first pulling a card on the general topic of I have a card falling out, so this is the moment to look at it. So we have here a Two of Cups. So there's a lot of compatibility here between two parties. I actually would even say that although apparently the US and China may be very much at odds, like they actually are very interdependent and need each other economically. And as I said, in terms of the experienced engineers, they anyway, work in both China and the US for a lot of Chinese engineers. And I think there's probably a deep level of mutual admiration in some sense, even if there can be a lot of conflict at the moment, or at least the appearance of that. But let's just take one card for American AI providers and one card for Chinese AI providers and see kind of where they are. Then I'll pull a couple of cards for the in-between. So for American providers, I have the Universe. So the Universe in tarot is a card that stands for endings, completion of a cycle. there will be a new beginning from this, but the new card after that in the cycle is the Fool. So that suggests that we may be reaching the end of American AI dominance, and we may be even reaching the end of this AI bubble, but certainly the universe suggests that yeah, it's starting to be time for something different here. So yeah, that is also a major arcana, so very, very much an archetypally relevant moment here where we are with the AI situation. For the Chinese, we have a King of Wands over here. So the King of Wands, this is a very authoritative, very motivated, very driven energy. The King of Wands is someone who is in control, who, you know, has all the resources at his disposal and the motivation, especially like to make his will happen. So it's very much like a mature, you know, perspective on it. Like they're gonna be, looks like in this sense, you know, going forward and maybe taking the crown, if you will, literally, if I interpret it in that way. And my cards, like, they're not facing each other, this King of Wands and the universe. So I mean, while it is the case that a lot of the models, obviously, that have been built now, they've been distilled American models, I'm not sure that the Chinese industry will keep looking at the US for ever as they reach parity and then start developing it in different directions. So yeah, let's see, let's pull 3 cards on the surface, and then the deeper levels of the US-China AI model relationship. So at the surface, what we have is a 4 of Wands. So there's definitely a milestone here being reached. I think that this reinforces the point of the universe. It probably is the case that this, you know, DeepSeek V4 is like a real accomplishment. I guess that it's maybe not in the news as much, or this Ascend hardware stuff is not in the news as much because people haven't maybe caught on. But yeah, I think that everyone who is sort of following the industry kind of sees that this is a moment where calls a lot of things into question, like the, you know, are all those NVIDIA GPUs really worth as much? Has all this work that went into training the models been, is it ever going to be, is that money ever going to be returned? And I see two more cards. Well, I see there's a 3 of Cups here, and so there seems to be a lot of partying and happiness here between friends. If you consider this to be maybe the Chinese side, I can see how they're actually celebrating this moment. They're probably gonna be sharing this technology with their partners, so that could be Russia and Iran, obviously come to mind first. So for all its limitations and flaws, I think in terms of the AI development, like, you know, we've heard of AI being used, you know, in the war in the Middle East by US-aligned factions, and for all its ills, I mean, they did attempt at least to use it. That will not be limited to the Western side anymore for very much longer here. And yeah, that causes certainly some possible concern. It's quite windy here, so let me just look at my next card. So the next card, I have here a Page of Wands, and the Page of Wands is a bit of an immature energy who's like sort of looking at this wand and maybe not really sure how to master it yet. I think that it's still quite early in this game, probably from the perspective, yeah, I you know, maybe of both sides. Like they don't like, I don't think maybe that we're currently aware of the full extent of the impact of this, you know, milestone for Western AI. I think that we're really not seeing it just yet, because with this Page of Wands, it seems like, okay, clearly something new came in, but are we able to really understand that and take advantage of it? And I say that especially for, you know, us third parties in this conflict, or in, you know, who, you know, from my perspective as a Swiss startup, I would like to use the best, most cost-effective technology to build my products on top of. I don't really have a serious horse in this race from that perspective. In terms of, I needed to be from here or from there. I mean, this is business after all. So let's see then, can I get any other card on this situation about what is the outcome here on this DeepSeek V4? Maybe what would be an answer from Western companies? What will they do as they kind of reach a point of seeing this? And here we have the 10 of Cups as the card that's coming up. So this is a card of great joy and happiness, which is very unintuitive that would be the case, because you would say that it would really pose serious questions to their bottom line. But it doesn't seem like that. It seems that actually there's a lot of long-term fulfillment and contentment here. And I guess at a meta level, I mean, if we get more and more cheaper AI, eventually this just means that we're able to really deploy it and take the work that is being done and ship it even further along. So that's actually good for the AI industry as a whole, even if there would be some setbacks along the way. But so far it's looking pretty optimistic long term, no matter what kind of initial situation we might be in. But yeah, so doesn't seem like there's much cause for concern here, according to the tarot cards at least. But besides that part of the story, I think it's just very interesting to see what the market's reaction is going to be. It appears that it's been priced in so far, but I don't know if every investor has really understood the full details and the impact that this will have in terms of what other solutions can be built on it. But time will tell. And I think that we can all be happy that we will be able to build cheaper AI at this point. And with that, my reflections are done, and have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.